Hello, I'm Kenny Bottone. What's your name? Outstanding. Welcome to Bobby Pickles Podcast.
That's me. All right, Kenny, state your name.
I'm the former Kenny Bottone, which I'm now registered with the state of Illinois as a sovereign American national. I had to give up my name, which I became a number, which I am 22073818 out of the state of Illinois. And under that is my actual full name, Kenneth Keith Geraci Bottone.
Sounds Italian.
It is.
The numbers don't, though. The numbers sound American.
The numbers are American. We're all American citizens, but we've been tricked. And we've been tricked by the birth certificate. The birth certificate is kind of like an initiation that America has taken away your personage and turned you into a corporate figure. In the year 1913, the Federal Reserve Act took over, and they used us, the people, as monetarization for the future. So what they did was they took everyone's name, anyone born or naturalized after the year 1933 is in the corporation. And we are traded every day on the Dow Jones stock market, as well as on the European Standard & Poor's. And if you look back far enough to our third president, which is Thomas Jefferson, there's an excellent library in which I found a letter from Jefferson to the Queen, reissuing that the Queen of England was responsible for America and America's soil belongs to England. So whether we like it or not, we're all actually British.
So I feel like I didn't do any justice with the intro, but welcome to Bobby Pickles Podcast. So, as you know, sometimes I'll just have random people on, somebody who comes into the shop and they just might be interesting. They might have an interesting story. And Kenny, I'm sorry, I don't know the number offhand. What do you like to go?
Kenny's fine.
Kenny, you like to go by Kenny, right? So Kenny stopped by the shop one day and we had a little discussion and he started getting into all this stuff. And I've had a little bit of background in it. I've seen some YouTube videos and things on the internet about it. And basically, what Kenny believes, if I think it's correctly, you believe basically that there's a straw man created in our name when we're born on paper, and we're basically like bonds that they trade throughout the United States to. They basically bet on how much money you're going to earn, I think, throughout your life, right? Like what you will contribute as a human citizen.
That's what they believe.
Belonging to this corporation, which is the United States of America Incorporated, right?
Right.
How much we are going to contribute to the GDP over the course of our lifetimes.
Correct.
Right?
Right. So your personal net worth is above the debt service. Anybody that tells you less is cheating you.
What is the debt service? What is that?
The debt service of the nation. You're a contributing factor. And when they did the trading, they tried to make everyone equal to the point that you have more accounts than you have days alive.
When you're born, does your race come into account with how much they feel like you're going to contribute over the course of your life?
That is a very good question.
Does it? Do you know if it does throughout your research? When did you start researching this? Take me back to the Kenny of old, the Kenny before the number.
Actually, I was 5 years old.
What?
I was 5 years old. And I had been going with my mother to the cemetery. My mother used to pray diligently over her brothers.
You Catholic?
Yes, born and raised Catholic.
Me too.
always believed everything your mother said, never questioned anything your mother said. And my mother said that they only use capitalized letters in a cemetery. It would only be on a headstone.
Really?
And that was the first I learned of it. So when I turned to my mother, I said, Ma, I don't think you're right about that, because sometimes I've seen mail come in and it's in all capitalized letters. She says, I don't think so, Kenny. It's only used in the cemetery. I said, well, I saw my brother's birth certificates the other day, and both of them are in capitalized letters. My mother's, no, that can't be right, Kenny. When we go home, we'll look at it. I said, fine. So my mother says, we're going to keep this to ourselves. So believing your mother, you try to keep it to yourself. Well, no, we got home, and my mother looked, grabbed the birth certificate right away, and there, both my brother's birth certificates with capitalized letters. So again, remember, you're only 5, you're little, you listen to your mother, let's keep this to yourself. And we go to sit down to dinner, and the first thing my mother says is, you have something really interesting to tell your brothers. And I kind of looked at her like, I thought we're going to keep this to ourselves. And she goes, go ahead and tell them. And I just spewed out, you guys are dead. You got capitalized letters on your birth certificate. That didn't go too well after my mother and father went out to dinner that night. But anyway.
So what did that signify?
That was really the very beginning of everything for me with this birth certificate.
When you noticed the just the capitalized letters, that said something to you?
Yeah.
Because the fact that they only use they use capitalized letters on the headstone.
And then, like, certain business mail would come in, and certain business mail
and I noticed
only carried the capitalized
when you
letters.
do your address for the United States Postal Service, all the words of the road and everything like that, that's all capitalized.
All of it.
And then, but West Palm Beach, the city, is not.
Absolutely.
It's weird.
Same thing on the birth certificate. As you go down, the register himself doesn't capitalize his whole. It's just regular spelling.
So what do you think? What do you assume that this means? What's the connection between the capitalized letters?
Well, obviously, now that we've learned exactly what it is, they decided that we are the partners that are just not going to receive their money unless you're smart enough to know what sovereignty is. And sovereignty takes back your godly right to have no one tell you what to do. So that there are no physical rules from a county, and there are no physical rules from a state, and there are no physical rules from a nation. You are your own entity. You are of God. And God is truly the only other sovereign. And also the owner of the earth, so that they're actually trying to sell you something when you say, well, you're buying your real estate. Everything that they taught you ends up being a trick because of the birth certificate. And when you turn your name in and you register with Treasury, Treasury is actually supposed to be looking for you if you read the whole description of it. But when you notify them, that's when everything begins for you. Then there is a Constitution. Then there is a Bill of Rights. Then there is equal justice. And that you cannot be rejected the way you are when you're not sovereign.
What happens to these people that say they're sovereign and they try to go off and live on their own, and then the government ends up coming, shutting them down, killing them? Which, I think it just happened on like the Bundy Ranch or whatever.
There's always the leader that has to take on, quote unquote, the establishment. And what the establishment is anybody who's going to try to turn the tables on things. And basically they said that one of the reasons that Lincoln was killed was back with the money and back with the Federal Reserve. The one reason that they said Kennedy was killed, it's back with the money, back with the Federal Reserve. So now here we have Trump trying to say we need to have our dollars backed by gold. And this is the exact way that if you don't put the right people in the Federal Reserve Board, you're not going to get what you want. Now, what they the whole oversight of things is there's actually a law in 1913 that said you don't have to participate in the Federal Reserve System. You can get your money back.
Is this all the Federal Reserve System? Is that what this pertains to? So it's
Yes.
actually not like the government, it's the Federal Reserve
Federal
System,
Reserve
which is a
Act.
private company.
Yes, and that act
Which
could
actually
be repealed.
it came about during Woodrow Wilson.
Right,
Not Lincoln.
right.
But Lincoln might have had some problem with central banking or something like
Right.
that,
Their
maybe.
promise was for every dollar it would turn into $10. What they're not saying was that it was a fake currency, the fiat currency is what they call it, and basically we pay interest only in gold.
What's a fiat currency for those who don't know?
There have been more than 200 different fiat currencies throughout history, and every one of them has failed. So by actually looking back at when it was stable, there was a commodity, and it wasn't people.
There was a commodity tied to it.
Silver or gold. If you
Silver or
don't receive
gold.
silver and you don't receive gold, then they shouldn't use the word income. Like, for example, when you're elderly, you get into HUD. You get a HUD contract. The HUD contract talks all about your income, your income, your income, your income. They're double talking you. There is no income unless it's silver or gold. Whatever it is that you're receiving from a monthly payment, it's actually a repayment of the stolen money from the birth certificate. So the money that your funds generated here in Europe or here in America, those funds made bank accounts. I sent you one of my checks. You get the amount that you get over here, and then you right on the top, it tells you the balance in your checking account. So I've maybe received 25, 30 checks since I started. Each time there's a different bank routing number. So if you think about the amounts of money, just myself, the debt on the nation is nothing. One person can pay it off.
So basically, when you're born, they set up. Do they basically? Does the Federal Reserve take out a loan from the government for you?
They're selling you as, yes, that they will be able to repay any loans they take. Because, like, for example, you make every year out 9 loans. Up to $10 million a year from the time you were born, you multiply that out, just in loans to smaller countries every year. So you have the money on the American stock market, the money on the European stock market, the money that you make on loans. All 3 of those things add up to more days than you could ever spend. And
Wow.
How they do it and
It's
how
a
they
genius
seize
concept, and it makes perfect sense, to be honest with you, doesn't it?
It's a genius concept, and everyone could be free. There is no poverty. There would be no poverty because everybody has the ability to write your name, write your social security number, and it's over. That's
Now,
it. It's paid.
have you actually done this? You said that you've received checks.
Right.
So you've actually done this and received checks?
No, my checks are my social security checks. But in my investigation, the amount that is on the check, it's money that if I don't grab, the federal government's getting. So it's actually a 2-party check. The check is being written by the IMF. And the check comes to me and I get my amount. And it says right under there, the rest of this check is void after 1 year. So on one check, I have $500 million. If I don't cash that $500 million and use it, that check becomes the party of the government. It's a 2-party check. So if you don't lien your checks, I mean, like, that's what I did. I took all my checks, I made all the copies, I put a lien on it, sent it into the Treasury and said, give me my money.
And what happened?
They just don't answer.
They don't answer? So we know this. I mean, we've seen a lot of this going around ever since, like, I guess, like the advent of the internet, free flowing information, and this is,
What they want you to do is to do it their way. See, I'm trying to do it my way, saying, this is my money, here it is, I'm going for it. That's not what they want. They want me to go into debt so that there's an interest to be collected. And when I filed, I didn't file as a debtor. I filed as a creditor. I don't owe them. They owe me. So for them to try to turn you, and they can do that easily with people that say, you'll tell you, you have $500 million that you could spend every day. And they go, oh, well, I'd be happy with 3 or 4 million. Well, that guy must be sitting there going, great. I'll take the rest of this fool's money. That there's even people that even when we're trying to get it, they're going to give up half of the money that actually belongs to them to just get some of it. And to me, there's this company outside of Geneva. It's GMEI Utility. They will actually help you to see how many times in your lifetime that you've been sold. So now, when I went after mine. There's 7 of them everybody has. You have yours, you have your mother and father. Then you have your mother and father's mother and father, so it's your grandparents. So when you figure in your grandparents, which you have 4 of, and then your parents, which you have 2 of, that's 6, and then yours is number 7. So when I asked for all mine, and I put it in GMI Utility, it kicked out a number. It's 210,965 times at $100 million each time. Now tell me, how disparaging is that?
I mean, it sounds crazy. What can we do to get that money? Like, this is just the money that they're making off of us being human beings.
You have to lean.
They really, and they just have all this money being made, and they're able to loan it out to different countries and stuff, and we just work our asses off all our lives and
espionage throughout the world. How many world bases do we have throughout the world? People have to understand the kind of money that they talk about throwing away every day. It's not built on this system where they keep saying, oh, we're going to go bankrupt. No, we're not. We're not going to go bankrupt. We can't go bankrupt. The world would be gone because they have everyone believing in the fiat currency. And it's not the fiat currency. It's the American people. But the American people go out and go, well, I need a loan. And they go and ask somebody else. You're sovereign. You're a king. You own the treasury. You don't ask someone who works for you if he'll go to work today. The guy either shows up or he's fired. So when you contact Treasury and go, hey, I'm alive, I want my money, they should go just as fast as they send you an IRS statement when they say you owe them money, which in fact is the silliest thing everyone's ever pulled off, because when you go on the Federal Reserve site, it tells you the physical paper itself is worthless. Doesn't matter the denomination, doesn't matter how many you have. The paper itself is worthless. So the value is only an electronic transmission. So every day you go to the store, you get a receipt. And that receipt says, well, you're paid. Well, that transaction gets on a list, and you get a batch number that eventually says it'll be paid. It doesn't mean it's paid. And it even tells you when you go to the store and you hand them cash, the cash doesn't really pay for your debt. And it comes around to where you get a transaction gets a number, and the number turns around into a numerical change. They flip the money, and then you get paid.
All right, so just to reiterate, so a fiat currency would be a currency that's not backed by any gold or silver or any kind of commodity. It's just paper.
And why would you pay a tax on it?
I was just about to get to that. No, I was just about to get to what our tax is. If they're making money hand over fist in the background, just on us being alive and them having, a paper version of us that they can trade or whatever and blah, blah, blah. What are taxes? How does that come into everything here?
I say it on the internet, and I hope, my friends don't take it wrong, but they taught us to be stupid, and we did it very, very well. A lot of us learned very well. And we're just getting caught in this two-way struggle. They say we fled Europe to get away from taxes. So where did we lose that whole thing as Americans? We're not paying taxes. That's why we fled Europe. And Europe chased us. And they got our money, and the banks got us, and that's all they wanted, okay? They can give us this red, white, and blue nonsense all day long to make us feel like patriots, when in fact they won. They won, and they got us over on this other side to say, I'm handing you a worthless piece of paper. I'm writing on the paper that it's a debt note, that someday it pays off. What day, we don't know. But it says it right on there. And then as soon as they hand you that debt note, it goes, well, now you have to pay a tax on that. Well, if you didn't actually receive anything, why would there be somebody standing there trying to get something? You don't have it. So it's this constant promise to pay that you would never let anyone trick you into, and they turn around and they say, well, then there's state taxes, there's federal tax, and there's not. It's optional. It's always optional. That's what makes sovereignty so great. No one can come and tell you, you have to do this or you have to do that. Contract law, anybody who's studied it, the very first page tells you, consent. You have to be involved in a contract and say, look, you and I are in this agreement. We're going to have addendums to it as we grow. We're both going to sign off. The things that we don't agree on, we're going to put over here, and then we'll sit down and we'll work it out. If those two people sit down and work it out, they have all these things, 90% that's right, but 5% they can't get, the contract is no good until the validity of both people say, this contract's 100%. And that's what makes a contract. Everything else?
So we have a one-sided contract that we don't know that we've bought in on?
Yes, you're forced. You're being forced. You're being forced. And then it's reassurance.
Is that why our founding fathers moved here? Because they wanted to be sovereign?
No, and they didn't have an army of men to put you in jail. But they pledge a constitution of protecting liberty. How do you protect liberty and have a guy sitting in jail? I mean, you can stand out here, right here in West Palm Beach, right out by the courthouse every day. They have a line of police cars that come in with their lights on to protect the bus that's full of a bunch of prisoners for a bunch of BS laws that none of them, if they agreed to, if a guy sits there and said, you're locked up, you're in handcuffs. Yeah. Are you consenting to that? Nobody's going to say yes.
Well, they trick you into consenting it.
That's the problem.
Come on over here and sign your name.
That's the problem. You can't take a non-entity that doesn't exist and then trap a human body. And I don't apologize for saying it, but you're retarded. If you're paying taxes, you're retarded. The American Army should come out to protect you right away because you don't know what the frig you're doing with your own money.
But if you don't pay taxes, you get locked up, right?
That's the problem. You're talking about the incentive to do it. If you don't have a driver's license, they want to give you a ticket and put you in jail. If you don't have a license plate on your car, they want to give you a ticket and put you in jail. These are all things you have the right to not consent to. Because in America, you are free to travel. This whole trick while you're driving, again, it's not a bunch of wordplay with a bunch of people that are coming from a foreign country and don't understand English, and then you go and take advantage of them. That's not what life was about. Let's take advantage of the rich, retarded kid. No. It all should have been stopped years ago. Somebody who's been in Congress all these years, and it's just like I brought up not too long ago on the internet, The flag with the yellow trim on the outside, it says it's not a country. The flag does not stand for a country. It stands for not a country. That's what the yellow around it means. It's a British Army war flag. And this is not a country. And they make our Marines walk onto a football field holding that flag. And I put in myself, I got it notarized, I have my statement, I put it on the internet, and I sent it in. Because I am going after the people who have that flag. Why are they giving us this flag with no stripe and trying to give us all this patriotism when in fact they say we have no country? They say we have no money. They say we have none of these things. Yet there is one thing that we do have, and that's from the year 1666, and that's a trust fund from your family. And there's so many people that are fighting with their family and against their family. If they knew that by keeping your family together, it'd be easier for you to get all your money in your family.
You mean start a trust?
They started the trust in 1666 called the Cesta QV Trust. Everyone has it. That's how this thing started later on in years with the 1913 Act, where they turned everybody into money, because that's what they did in Britain.
Wow.
It's not easy to
I'm
uncover.
at a loss.
It's not easy to uncover, but like I said,
What are you supposed to do once you uncovered it? That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's
because
the thing, you
there's
don't really-
all these different, there's these different examples of people who try to claim sovereignty.
Right.
Like if a cop pulls you over or something like that, and they want your license, and you say, "No, I'm a sovereign person," or something like that.
Right.
They're brought to jail. Or like the Bundy Ranch. I think that had something to do with it too. I'm not sure, but or I think even
if you don't sign and you
what is the guy who it was in Texas and it set on fire? What was the name of the town? Shoot, yeah, David Koresh.
Koresh, yeah.
David Koresh, yeah. What wasn't he
Absolute
even
invasion
wasn't he
of
even a
privacy.
sovereign?
Yes, it was an absolute invasion of religious. Actually, so it was a religious compound. So
Yeah. Well, shoot. Maybe do some checking on here really fast. I want to see that. Let me see if I can find some stuff about the flag. The USA flag. Is that off? It's on? The constitutional United States flag signifies common law jurisdiction. The gold-fringed United States flag is the Admiralty or war flag, which donates admiralty or martial law.
right.
Others have attempted to persuade the judicial that fringe an American flag. Wait, hold on a second. What is that? That's crazy.
Well, see, it's the two things again, the two opposites. If there is no country, you can't stand there and say, well, the United States of America is prosecuting it.
It says these are smaller U.S. flags that are able to be carried by individuals, such as in parades. They're ceremonial flags, and the yellow you see is gold braided fringe. However, real gold is expensive, so the color yellow is substituted for gold. Larger flags, unless others have additional knowledge, there is not specific reason why this gold fringe is there, except as a decorative device for the U.S. ceremonial flags. But of course, that's what this random website says.
It signifies Britain. And its admiralty law is what they want in order to use for commerce. But commerce is only recognized as the people who can actually make contracts. So as they have you as that you're physically dead as a citizen, they don't have you as an institute that you could actually make contracts. So they say, well, we have to do it for them. And the people don't. If you give the people their money, they will not need government.
No. So Kenny, what do you think about Bitcoin? How does Bitcoin come into all this stuff? I mean, isn't that some kind of way that we can regain some kind of our sovereignty?
When you start a fiat currency, you have to look at history, and history says that eventually it'll fail. So you have to really worry about who's at top and who can crush you right away. And that's what happens in a lot of stocks, or people call it insider trading. Somebody gets a little notion on a transaction, they can make billions of dollars.
Yeah. And you know that the Congress is allowed to do that, right? Isn't that crazy? They're legally allowed to do insider trading?
Well, every state is actually allowed to make its own money. They just don't do it. But the Federal Reserve should always have whatever bank the Federal Reserve has money at, there should also be money backed by gold and silver. There should be two lines. You want to participate in the Federal Reserve System versus I want my money back by gold and silver.
Yeah. So, okay, so where are we at with this? So basically, you were young, really young, and then that's the first time that you started thinking about this when your mother brought it up, and then brought it up at dinner time.
At the dinner table. My brothers looked into it later on.
Fast forward, and when did you really start realizing this and getting into it?
I got arrested for driving without a license, and the judge fined me. I told her to eat shit, and she had me arrested.
And
when I came out, I said that I was going to get her back. So I started learning about sovereignty, and she had a target on her head ever since.
She had a target on her head?
Absolutely.
So you're still going after this, right?
Without question.
What happened with that? What was that whole experience about?
Well, to me, it's...
you're arrested for not having a license? Driving without one?
Yes.
Did you ever go and get your license from the DMV? Did you just not have it on you?
No, it's like I had a ticket where I got pulled over on the turnpike, and it was like 6:30 at night. If you ever tried to go from West Palm Beach north, it is literally impossible to get past Palm Beach Gardens. There's just two solid rows of cars, and you just jump in line and you just follow. So some cop wrote me a ticket saying I was doing 90 miles an hour, which it's not even close. But the guy wrote a ticket for me. I got pulled over before Palm Beach Gardens. He wrote the ticket for Jupiter. So 8 miles ahead of where this ticket is an imaginary car that this guy sees that he tickets, but it gets to me. So I went into court. I obviously dodged the judge right away to throw it out. I remember the policeman reached into his pocket and grabbed some kind of bar card and put it back in his, and the judge just kind of went against the testimony of me and my girlfriend, who both said we were pulled over in Palm Beach Gardens. Here's the ticket up here in Jupiter. I'm going south to north. I'm not going north to south. Guy says, well, he actually says to me, I'm not really a judge. I'm an administrative assistant. So I thought, well, if you're not a judge, what the hell are you doing here? I'm not even signing the freaking ticket. So I wrote eat shit on the bottom of the ticket and left it. Didn't even worry about it. But I got my renewal in the mail 2 weeks later to pay for my driver's license, and I thought, if I have to go through bullshit like I just went through in court, because I wrote the superiors of the policemen, and nobody did nothing. Forget about what happened in court. The attorney general didn't do anything. Nobody did anything that I wrote to. So I thought, I'm just not going to pay for my driver's license. So I didn't really have it suspended. I just didn't renew it. But it was because of the ticket situation. So I never paid that ticket, and I never renewed my license.
Wow. So you just refused to submit?
Yeah. So I went, 5, 6 years, little ticket here, little ticket there. Maybe I'd pay it, maybe I wouldn't. whatever. And as they built up, I just kept getting these letters in the mail saying your license is suspended. And I would just laugh because I thought, well, I don't need insurance. And then all of a sudden I started finding out about sovereignty, where I didn't need a driver's license, I didn't need a tag, and I didn't need insurance. And now I really got pissed off because I thought, and now there's supposed to be a constitution that protects my life and liberty, and I'm in jail. And I mean, some of the things I found out while I was in jail was ridiculous.
You were in jail then? They put you in jail for not having it?
They wrote it that I didn't fail to appear against a warrant because he put out a warrant when I didn't pay the amount that she said to pay.
They put a warrant out for your straw man.
And that's it.
And then you have to come in and say, "Hi, I'm the representative of the straw man. I consent to
I didn't know all that then.
Huh?
I didn't know all that then. But then as I learned it, I just got madder and madder that someone's trying to pull the wool over an adult's eyes. There's going to take these many days of his life away, and that woman never expects me to come back. She's got the wrong guy.
Now, you said you had a game plan for us, that we can maybe try to
Absolutely.
get some money out of the government or whatever,
Absolutely.
or out of the Federal Reserve.
Absolutely.
What are we going to do? Can we talk about our plotting to do this?
We made a big dent. I don't know whether you realize, but it was a couple weeks ago. There was this enormous tirade by the administration about everyone was this illegal alien.
Do you like Trump?
I have my days, but yes, I have my days.
Do you think he's here fighting for us?
No.
No?
No.
Do you believe he's part of the establishment?
Without question.
Yeah?
Yeah. We're being tricked in another way, another form.
We're being tricked
But
to
we're
believe
still
that
being tricked,
that he's not establishment?
Absolutely. Because he would get rid of that yellow on the flag.
Why are they always trying to trick us?
Well, that's the whole thing.
Why do they play these friggin' Zelensky, whatever it is, mind
That's why
games?
they always said, the French always say, the Americans say it's so stupid. And it always sounds insulting. But you know what? They're right.
But it's just their accent.
But if this is what we're being taught, and we're not being taught the truth, then someone else has to come through and go, listen, this is not the only idea that should have been put forth in an educational system. And the first one should be that someone took away your personage and turned you into a corporate figure. And the minute you're taken out of that corporate figure, they can't do a thing. And I mean, I was in one of the toughest areas, Martin County. That police force up there is like going back with the guys wearing the ropes and just slinging people up right on tree stumps. These guys pull up one night. They all sit there, oh, you're going to jail, you're going to jail. We were standing there in the light talking at night. That was it. The guy ran my card, and I heard him say, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, all right. He comes back. We were smoking a small fatty. The cop gives the grass back to my buddy. Gives him the bag of grass, gives him a fucking joint, gives it back to him. Hands him his ID and says to him, you have a warrant out of Indiana. Make sure you stay out of Indiana. I'm looking like this. He's looking like this. He turns over and he walks up. He hands me my license. He says, I apologize for the way I spoke to you, Mr. Battone. I said, it's okay, officer. They both just left. And my buddy just, on his knees, he looked at me and said, what the F did you do, Kenny?
What did you do?
And it was the sovereignty. I had gotten my papers back maybe a month and a half from when I registered, that I got it back, that I had my number and I had everything. That the party that I was with became sovereign.
You gave that to the police officer?
My ID, yeah, it came up.
Oh, so you just gave your ID and he was able to pull that up that you had to...
It came up right away. And you could hear him, he was stunned because they can't do anything.
So what do I do to do this? What do I do to regain my sovereignty?
There's a thing called Uniform Commercial Code. And what the Uniform Commercial Code is, you actually use every day. You walk into McDonald's and you tell them you want this or you want that. You're actually entering into a contract. The person on the other side is fulfilling it. You walk into any store, whatever it is, you're engaged in contract. We're engaged in commerce. I want to be able to put forth a company that an American citizen can put on this T-shirt, and the police go, whoa. Whether the person knows what it is or not, the T-shirt lets the cop know. That
I'm a sovereign citizen?
That's it. Sovereign. I'm a sovereign American national. The citizen is a trick word. Never use the word citizen. It's one of the trick words. But you're a sovereign American national. And you're actually what they call a foreigner because you're outside the 10-mile square limit of Washington, D.C. The federal zone is only a 10-mile square limit. You become party because they grab your birth certificate and bring it to the Department of Commerce inside of Washington, D.C. And no one has ever gotten their paperwork back, but I'm one of the people who is trying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, I hope you're successful.
Well,
Now,
I appreciate
now,
that.
one more thing though. We had some kind of plot. You and I, we were conspiring to do something, right? What were we doing? We're gonna make some shirts and then give the bill to the.
We enter into a contract. We send the bill to Treasury. Treasury pays the bill. We give out the T-shirts.
Let's do it. So we're gonna come up with a.
We have our own slogans.
We're gonna do 10,000 shirts.
We're gonna. We can do $5 million a month.
We'll do 10,000 shirts. We'll put in a purchase order for the down payment, right?
No problem.
And we're gonna make. I am a sovereign American national.
Yes.
On the shirt.
Yes.
Okay, we'll print up a whole bunch of these. I'll give you and you're gonna submit this and see if it gets paid. Is that right?
I already sent you the essential. Like when I first registered with Treasury, I sent you a copy of the mailing receipt. So the mailing receipt says I'm registered with Treasury, and you take that number right off of that mailing receipt, or you make a copy of the mailing receipt yourself, attach it with the bill. And all it is your signature. Now they say there's a number on your new Social Security card. If you get a new Social Security card, there's a number on the back. That number should be your original birth number. That's on your live birth certificate. So the key to all your money is in your Social Security card. So forget your name, forget your Social Security number. You use the number on the back of your Social Security card, and then you sign it, and it's paid.
All right. Well, sounds like a good theory.
The Treasury has up to 25 days from the time that they receive it. So you got to remember it's business days. So let's say we send it out on a specific day, and let's say we send it out on a Monday, it doesn't get there till Friday. So Friday for them is their number one. Then, of course, Saturday and Sunday doesn't count until the next business day, which would be Monday. So they have up to 25 days to pay it. So like something we're going to do this month, we're not going to find out if we're successful until maybe late next month to find out if it was paid. But that's why I say, if we already get it going to where I'm saying, I'm already ahead because you have money and I have money. When the money's agreed to between the two of us, there's nothing else to do but put your name and your number on it and send it in. Because after that, they turn around and go, well, what is this? It's a contract between me and him. This is what we're doing. And it's
Can it be
paid.
a contract between you and Fat Enzo Incorporated?
Anybody.
Awesome.
That's why I said, like myself, I took my name after I made it sovereign. I made the second name sovereign by making it an Indian enterprise. Because I thought one of the best things if I could create getting the money, is getting to places where they've banished these Indians and see the conditions that we actually let these people live in nowadays. And the only
They're sovereign, right?
They are sovereign, but they use the sovereignty against them, not for them. They don't understand how powerful they are in individual names versus saying you're Cherokee, you're Sioux, whatever it is. They have to understand each person. You have a right to be your own bank. You have a right to make loans to yourself. You know, it's like when they say, well, the government is investigating because so much money's gone. There is no money. It's a made-up concept. It's not like you have 10 pennies in your bank account and you might lose one. It's your bank account is empty because it's full of money. It's filled. You just have to use it. And you use it by commerce. You know, most people will say, well, I'll go out and buy a new car. You could go out and buy the dealership. You know, you're reining in your own mental ability to say what's yours. And the way they have it is they want you to go into debt, and then that'll create money. But you could be a creditor and make contracts. We could say, we both like Dairy Queen. We're going to decide throughout the nation where to build these different Dairy Queens. We're going to need $500 million. Sit down, you sign a contract, this is what we intend to do, and bang, you send it in. They fund it. They fund it because you have a number at birth. You have a number called a live birth certificate. You have a number called a birth certificate. You have a number on your ID card. You have a number on your Social Security card. And you have a number on the back of your Social Security card. And all of those numbers identify you as an owner. You are an owner of the United States Treasury. You own the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and everything in Washington, D.C. belongs to you. And when the nuns explained this as a kid, it was real simple. They told you about a place called the Smithsonian Institute that had all the riches of the world inside these buildings. And to forget about the value of the real estate itself, but all those items inside those buildings belong to you. And one of the items, they say that there is a guard constant in the museum. And he stands over what's called the Hope Diamond. And when you go up and you ask the security guard, how much is the Hope Diamond, he says to you, it's priceless. And that's the thing you have to focus in on. Priceless. There is no amount of money that could buy it, and that's you. There is no amount of money that someone can say to you, no. Why would you ever apply for a loan? You own the bank. You own the bank. And when enough people get behind this, you know, there are a lot of people, well, I don't want to get Kenny in trouble if I put my name on it. I don't want to get attached to this if I put my name on it. Everybody's so intimidated by the fact that, oh, the FBI will do this or that they'll do that. They have nothing to do with you and your money. Your money belongs to you. The people that are in charge of that money, that FBI, if it was a real force that we talked as children that protected people, those people would be under arrest. Somebody would be getting you your accounts. And when you start to look into it, it says the government's supposed to be looking for you. The government's supposed to be looking for you to get you back your money. And there's, like I said, GMEI utility, you go on there, it'll tell you how many times you've been sold. And when you see it, it's so out there that you think to yourself, how could anybody put me, like myself right now, in poverty? And you're watching other people starve and go hungry and not have a place to live and know that they're multimillionaires. The debt service is in the trillions. Whatever their asset is trillions plus whatever. That's your net. That's the real net worth. And how everybody doesn't understand that, I don't know. Because you're in a group. Everyone's had a mother. Everyone's got a birth certificate. The minute someone found out that your birth certificate's been hacked, I would think that there would be anarchy the next day. Absolute anarchy.
What about if you're born in these other countries? If you're born in another country?
Born or naturalized. If you come to this country, they give you naturalization, they give you a number, and it acts the same way.
Yeah, but what if you're not an American citizen? You're over in England or something like that.
Well,
or
if
some other country.
If you're British, you're already in because it's a British game. The Cestui Trust is a British, started in 1666. That's why I always put the year, because I say to everybody, do you know how many people have not received their money? And you're talking about all the veterans families. And they talk this big patriotism and all this stuff. If you really care about the veterans and you really care about the veterans' families, get them their Cestui Trust. You don't want yours, that's fine. But let somebody else have their own.
And then do you do anything like as like an activist kind of, do you help anybody else do this?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You do?
Yeah.
Could somebody reach out to you if they wanted to?
Every day I let people know where my Facebook site is. And you can just kind of scroll down to the certain sections I have where there'll be 4 or 5 things in a row that'll give you, how it started, why it started, everything that I learned, how I got it.
Do you want to tell people what that is?
Sure. The Facebook site is Kenny Bottone, Kenny, Kenny, and it's Bottone.
And they can reach out to you. And
reach out on Facebook. I'll be glad to answer.
Awesome. I really appreciate you coming down and doing the podcast. Let's work on a contract between.
Not a problem.
I just hope that doesn't weaponize the IRS to come after Fat Enzo. But oh well.
There's nothing.
You have
wrong
to be
with
you have to be like a little bit of a punk rocker to do this.
There's nothing wrong with making a contract and asking you to accept money that I have that someone doesn't want to give me.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Here.
My pleasure, Bobby.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Pickles podcast. He always says that's me. With that look on his face, he'll talk about anything. Outstanding. Tattoos, t-shirts, politics, history, and hot sauce on everything. Bobby Pickles. Pop culture, documentaries, conspiracy theories, sarcasm, and beer. It's a conversation. Start listening, cause we're all here. Bobby Pickles podcast. That's me.
You're not going to see the signature because all they want is the numbers.
Okay, what's the first step? What's the first paperwork I gotta fill?
The very first thing is you should file, like for example, I picked Illinois because it was one of the 13 original states, and the state's motto, okay, the state's motto is about sovereignty and protecting sovereignty. So when I registered, Illinois had a site right there on the internet where you could just fill out the paperwork, swipe your freaking credit card, send it in. It was $25. For $25, I told the Martin County Police, and that is almost unbelievable. Like when I saw, imagine a policeman handing your buddy his top back and then telling him he had warrants. Any cop would have put him in the handcuffs, put him in the car. He would have got the tour of the United States before he ever would have got back. And that's when the cop handed him back and told him to stay there in Indiana, he turned to me and said, "What the fuck, Kenny, come on." Because he was like, I can't fucking believe this. I should be in jail. And I'm sitting there and going, wow, the fucking power of sovereignty. If I could tell somebody about this minute and they'd actually believe me, everybody in there, because you just, like this, you take all the power out of the cop. You just see him dream. He can't do a fucking thing.
Yeah?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Happened to me twice. We were sleeping in this abandoned restaurant. They had an outdoor kind of canopy. There's probably about 8 of us. Little do I know, 2 of them take off early in the morning, and they start pissing on some guy who was cutting the grass on the side. We didn't know, but somebody was buying the business, and some guy was fixing it up, was going to come there. So he threatened the fucking gardener, and the gardener called the cops. We didn't even know about it. We're still waking up. So I get like 6 fucking cars. 2 coming this way, 2 coming this way, cops everywhere. One guy's fucking like reaching for his gun, and we're like, come on, what? Well, what's the problem? Oh, somebody threatened us, so-and-so. And I was like, oh, it wasn't us. Doesn't matter. Well, you're all going to jail, blah, 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 anyway. Let's see your IDs. And by now, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. And it happened again the opposite way. I was the last one to hand him my card. Everybody got their card back right away. And then he came over and apologized to me. And all 6 cars left on the spot. And all I did was go like this. They never said a word. Didn't get pissed off. So once you're registered, you file your UCC-1. You go after, specifically, you go after, like, for example, I had said I wanted my grandparents. So I got all 7 of mine in. You know, you're going after both your grandparents, which is 4. And you're going after your mother and father, which is another 2. Then yourself. That makes 7. So there's 7 accounts that belong to you that they cannot stop